Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Rosa and I'm from the Party of the Animals. I am currently in Amsterdam in the conference. This is backstage. And of course, welcome to Dr. Shireen Kassam. Dr. Kassam is visiting professor of plant-based nutrition of the University of West. No, I saw
Winchester.
Winchester, right. I was mixing up two universities, so sorry. Our Dr. Kassam will give today's masterclass on the benefits of a plant-based diet. And before I give the word to her, I would like to ask everyone to turn on the cameras, and I see most of you are already doing that, and of course, mute yourself. So, Dr. Kassam, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here, and it's a real honour to be representing University of Winchester and my community interest company, Plant-Based Health Professionals UK, as well. Now, it was a little difficult to know who was going to be in this group and how to pitch, but I was going to start off with a presentation, and I don't need to spend too long on that, and then just open up the floor for a chat. And we've got a small group, so that will facilitate that. I'm really happy if people would like to put any questions as they come in the chat box and I can work through it. And then, obviously once I've finished talking, we can unmute and just have an open conversation as well. So I'll kick off and give you some overview of my perspective on healthy plant-based diets. And, I guess I'm here as a health professional, a concerned health professional, because I see on a day-to-day basis the consequences and the adverse health outcomes related to an unhealthy diet. And I've been working in the public sector here in the UK as a doctor in the National Health Service since 2000, so 21 years of healthcare experience here. And I was just going to briefly present some evidence supporting plant-based diets for the treatment and prevention of chronic disease to really give you confidence that this has really been embraced by international guidelines, some ideas on how you might bring the idea of healthy plant-based diets into your own either practice, workplace or environment, and then just some basic tips on a healthy plant-based diet. And as I say, I'm here as a health professional, so that perspective will definitely come across, and I provide education on this topic at Winchester University. And so I thought it was just really useful. I know I'm going to be preaching to the converted, just to talk about some definitions, because this is where things get muddled in the medical literature. And, obviously we understand the term vegan, but to me as a health professional, it tells me what a person is not eating rather than what somebody is actually eating. So it may or may not be healthy. Vegetarians, obviously we know, don't eat animal flesh, but continue to consume eggs, dairy, honey. Flexitarian is somebody who's trying to reduce their consumption of meat, eggs and dairy, usually for environmental concerns. And so, that sort of person may eat animal products a couple of times a week. What I like to talk about is a whole food plant-based diet. This is depicted in the plate here. It's almost equal proportions of fruits, vegetables, whole grains and legumes, obviously with also some nuts and seeds. And that's what we call a healthy vegan diet. And then, people use the term predominantly plant-based, but, that doesn't really have a definition, but I sort of think of it in terms of the Eat Lancet planetary health plate, 85% plant-based. And as I say, my concern comes from the fact that the food system is at the centre of 4 interrelated crises: climate, biodiversity, health. And, I think it's worth thinking about ethics as well, because our food system currently harms humans and animals alike. And, we're in a situation where we produce enough food to feed 10 billion people in this planet, but nearly 1 billion remain food insecure and hungry. And that is not an ethical food system. I didn't know where you were all coming from, but so I just chosen some global stats. We're in a situation where globally in every country, non-communicable chronic diseases are the main cause of death. And for the Netherlands, given that you're there in the Netherlands, 90% of deaths are due to non-communicable diseases. these are predominantly from cardiovascular disease and cancer. Now, cancer is the top cause of death in the Netherlands and Canada, for example. And 80% of these chronic illnesses could be wiped out if we address the risk factors: unhealthy diets, tobacco smoking, excessive alcohol, and lack of physical activity. And just focusing in on diets, unhealthy diets result in 1 in 5 deaths globally. And the conclusion of this large analysis in the Lancet from 2019, our findings show that a suboptimal diet is responsible for more deaths than any other risks globally, including tobacco smoking. And what are these risks? They cause 11 million deaths a year, and they're because we're eating a diet too high in sodium, which is a reflection of pre-prepared and packaged foods, and they're too low in whole plant foods. And so as a consequence, they're too high in animal-derived foods as well, red and processed meat and others, for example, and they're leading to the top causes of death, which are cardiovascular disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. And it's not just about living long, is it? It's about living healthy and a good quality life. And all these unhealthy lifestyle factors, including our diet, is meaning that although we have a global life expectancy of 72 years, the healthy life expectancy is only 63 years. We're living at least 10 years in poor health. And that's even more stark in the Netherlands. I was really surprised to see this, that life expectancy is pretty good, 81.8 years, but healthy life expectancy is pretty poor. And none of us want to live in poor health, and we don't want it to be our fault. And so what about diet? I looked into a bit more detail about the diet of the Netherlands, and for all of you from high income countries, this is a recurrent theme. We have got rising rates of overweight and obesity, which is directly related to our toxic food environment. We consume too much salt because we're eating too much processed and ultra processed foods. We are nowhere near the amount of fruits and vegetables. And in Netherlands, people eat 5 grams of legumes a day. I can't even imagine what 5 grams looks like, but it's less than a portion a week for sure. And too much red meat and sugar sweetened beverages, and most of our cereal grains are refined. And that's really globally what's happening. And even middle and low income countries are shifting to this type of diet. And we've realized that how vulnerable we have become because of our poor diet and unhealthy lifestyle factors. Again, I chose the Netherlands. They've just published in March analysis of the people that are hospitalized due to COVID, and the vast majority have underlying health conditions which are related to unhealthy diets and to other lifestyle factors. And so for me as a healthcare professional, I've realized that there is another solution, and this is the solution that is endorsed by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and the Global Lifestyle Medicine movement, where we are looking at these unhealthy lifestyle factors and rectifying them at community and population level to make us more robust and have better health outcomes. And when it comes to what the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, founded in 2004, recommend as a healthy diet, it's one that's predominantly on a variety of minimally processed fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And that's really the definition of a whole food plant-based diet. So this is mainstream. Healthy vegan diet can really support health and well-being. But we also have to consider the wider context of a healthy diet. We want it to be nutritious and healthy, of course, but it needs to be sustainable for the producer, for society and the planet. It needs to be affordable and accessible. We need to be able to adapt it for cultural preferences, and it needs to be kind and compassionate. And sadly, we are not meeting any of these 5 ideals. And we've known for decades, the WHO, all healthcare organizations know which dietary components cause ill health. It's refined carbohydrates, fried foods, sugar-sweetened beverages, red and processed meat, diets high in saturated fat, which predominantly comes from animal foods, and too much alcohol consumption. And we even understand how these diets result in chronic illness. The core to all of our chronic illnesses is inflammation, which is driven by oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and unhealthy gut microbiome. Our diet can even alter our gene expression. It can shorten the telomeres, which are the caps at the end of the chromosome. We've realized from just a study published a couple of weeks ago that, for example, red and processed meat can actually damage the DNA in the lining of the colon. So the colon cells are damaged directly by certain foods, mainly related to animal-derived foods. And we can alter and cause dysregulation of hormones such as estrogen and insulin-like growth factors. So we understand intimately how diet impacts our health. Whereas conversely, we know which foods promote health. It's fruits and vegetables, it's beans as our main source of protein, it's all the micronutrients you find in the colourful plant foods, it's fibre, which is only found in plant foods, it's all the antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds in the herbs and spices, it's mainly water for thirst, but tea and coffee can be consumed in a healthy manner. And of course, you know, the COVID pandemic has highlighted the importance of vitamin D, which in the Northern Hemisphere we often lack in. And so this is what a healthy disease-preventing plate looks like. It's fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, water, tea and coffee, and a portion of nuts and seeds a day. Everything else you do at the sides and peripheries is optional, not necessary, and these are the only health-promoting foods, really. And we know this from decades of research, and some of the simple studies we've seen are from looking at the blue zones where people live the longest and healthiest lives and more likely to reach 100 years. And this is a centenarian from Okinawa who's active and supple and mobile and, you know, enjoying time by the sea. And when we look, and this is directly from their website, their diet is 95 to 100% plant-based, with really emphasizing beans as the main source of protein and snacking on nuts. And everything else is eaten in small amounts to varying degrees in the different blue zones, but really are not directly contributing to health outcomes. And we've even got some large studies reporting the health outcomes of vegetarians and vegans, and the best known are the Adventist Health Study 2 from Loma Linda in North America, and the EPIC Oxford study from the UK, and they've been going on for several decades. And it's taught us a few things. We know that those who are eliminating animal foods are more likely to be a healthy weight. So vegans are the only one with a normal BMI here. As you reduce and eliminate animal foods, you lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. Same with high blood pressure. As you get rid of animal proteins, you slash your risk of high blood pressure by about 63%. And, you know, vegans are more likely to have a healthy cholesterol because they're avoiding saturated fat and cholesterol in the diet. And when we put all of this together and look at our top 2 killers around the world, vegetarians significantly reduce their risk of heart disease, and vegans have a reduced risk of cancer also. And this has got into the international consensus statement. So I chose the British Dietetic Association, but there's a statement from Canada and America and other parts of the world where well-planned vegan diets can support healthy living in people of all ages. And this has even got into all the international guidelines on disease prevention. So 2019, prevention of cardiovascular disease, we've got plant-based diets alongside Mediterranean as being the 2 diet patterns that are recommended by the American College of Cardiology. This is a consensus statement from the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists for people with type 2 diabetes. They should strive to attain and maintain an optimal weight through a primarily plant-based meal plan. And the cancer prevention guidelines. Globally, we are told to eat a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans. And this is my definition of a whole food plant-based diet. And we come back to the fact that our food system is driving the climate and biodiversity crisis, and that our food system globally has breached so many planetary boundaries. And so when we look at the Eat Lancet Commission report that has put together a diet that will not only be healthy, but will keep our food system within the planetary boundaries, you can see it's predominantly plant-based. This is my definition of predominantly plant-based. The only allowance for animal foods, and it's optional, it's clear that it's not necessary, is dairy foods in blue here and animal source foods, and that makes up 13% of the plate. And it's clear that you should be getting most of your protein from legumes and nuts. And so when you drill down deep, that means 1 portion of red meat a week, it means 2 portions of dairy and 3 eggs, and no more than that. And so what we've been trying to do in the UK is highlight this to health professionals and the public, and, you know, supporting the vegan movement to really promote healthy plant-based diets. And so we started off in 2018 with the first UK plant-based health professionals conference. And it was, you know, it was so reassuring to see that health professionals and the public are really super excited to learn about this for the co-benefits of people, planet and the animals. And this is my organisation, Plant-Based Health Professionals UK, that provide education to health professionals and the public and policymakers. And we have lots of streams of programs here. We have a membership program, we hold conferences, online education, we compile patient stories to keep people motivated, teach people how to cook, and then try and align ourselves with other organizations like, of course, yourselves, and, you know, the Physicians Committee in the US, and also Physicians Association for Nutrition that's based out of Germany, and really try to influence policy. And at Winchester University, I provide a course for healthcare professionals that if you're healthcare in the audience, you're very welcome to join. It's globally available, and even non-health care professionals have enjoyed it and benefited. So do have a look at the website. And we write lots, you know, we get this into the medical literature where we know our colleagues are going to be reading about it. And I've tried to use workplace opportunities. This is, for example, 2019, we had a Veganuary event at my hospital, King's College Hospital, which is just a big public sector hospital in London in the UK. And just this May gone, we were allowed to promote No Meat May as part of the sustainability agenda, because our healthcare system, well, globally, our healthcare system contributes 4% of greenhouse gas emissions, and we have to slash that. We have to make our healthcare systems carbon neutral as soon as possible. And so that's really becoming mainstream by addressing the food environment as well. And we link up with patient groups and community support groups, because like with all changes to, you know, our cultural and social norms, it starts at the grassroots level. And there's lots of community groups teaching people how to cook healthy, accessible, affordable diets. And we have free general public resources that you're all welcome to sign up for and recommend to your networks. It's a 21-day plant-based health challenge, daily emails, a weekly free Zoom class for the rest of the time that you're engaged with this program, and, you know, just bringing this to the mainstream. And we've started a healthcare service that puts plant-based diets first and foremost in our healthcare provision, but we practice a lifestyle medicine service here at Plant-Based Health Online, which again is accessible globally except for US and Canada. And because as health professionals we have credibility, you know, we've tried to get the message out about the role of the food system in generating pandemics, and also contributing to our ill health within the UK. And again, you know, we write because I think it's time, well, we've been called to action as healthcare professionals. We've been told that we should be front and center of fighting climate change and reducing the impact of our own behaviors in the healthcare system. And one of the things that we have to do is support our patients to remove red meat from the diet. This has the co-benefits for health and the environment, and it's huge. So, you know, when you're thinking about what you can do as an individual, you know, start by educating yourself. And obviously I'm talking to the converted, you know, all this. Use your influence in your role, your workplace, and your communities, and join your country-based advocacy group. Like, we have membership that involves health professionals and non-health professionals alike, because we all need to be educated in this space, and get to know your community groups who are already doing this. You don't need to start from scratch. We just need to get together as a network and support each other in this global message of a transition to a healthy plant-based diet. And so for me, you know, with my patients and, you know, people who ask me, you know, there's just a handful of things that we could all do. You know, start with a healthy breakfast, which couldn't be healthier if you start with oats and berries and flax seeds, for example. It's easy to prepare. You can do it the night before, or overnight soaked oats. You swap out as much of your meat for beans. That's an easy win for health and for the environment. Swap out your refined grains for whole grains. up your intake of fruits and vegetables and crowd out all the other unhealthy snacks that you might be reaching for. When you're having salads, you know, add a decent source of plant-based protein in the form of beans and tofu. You do have to learn to cook. You know, we do have to get back to our cooking skills and being prepared with ingredients and shopping lists, and learn to make things like soups that are easy, that will last a few days, and add beans. Add in a portion of nuts and seeds as a snack or sprinkled on top of your salads, and think about the nutrients that we need to make sure we're getting in a plant-based diet: iodine, vitamin B12, vitamin D, and omega-3 fats. It just takes a small amount of education and planning, and we can all do it in a healthy way. So I hope in this very brief overview, I've given you a large amount of evidence that supports plant-based diets for the prevention and treatment of chronic disease, and that national and international guidelines are now catching up with this evidence. And we really need to think of our diet in terms of planetary health as well as human health. And really, we are all clear that a shift to a plant-based diet is therefore necessary. So you'll all know these resources. I mean, I can share the slides with you. Some really great documentaries and films. And I think this, for us in the UK, David Attenborough has finally been talking about plant-based diets in his, in his 90s, but at least he's got there finally, and it's had an influence for all of us here. And just on a broader level, if you're looking at the whole food system and agricultural production system, I would highly recommend, with a big dose of bias, a book that's just come out, co-edited by my father and my sister, Rethinking Food in Agriculture, and it goes into all aspects of sustainable food production. So thank you. And yeah, I will leave it there, and hopefully we can have a bit of a dialogue with you all and answer some of your questions.
Thank you for this. It was really interesting. There are already some questions in the chat. I saw them.
Yeah, so yeah, shall I just work through them, do you think? Yeah, shall I? So do you have links of cooperations with similar organizations in other countries? So my knowledge of what's happening and sort of the main land, as it were, there is the Physicians Association for Nutrition, and I'll try and pop it in the chat in a minute. So PAN. Now I know there's a PAN Netherlands. I have not come across Swedish group, but I tell you that there is an organization also called Table, if you check them out, and they are associated with a university in Sweden. So they do excellent advocacy work, produce position papers, and their podcast is excellent as well. Caroline Rowley says that it's clear, yeah, that meat and dairy is optional. I absolutely agree. In Lebanon, we have vegetarian and vegan versions of nearly every item in our diverse Mediterranean menu. I agree, it's very culturally adaptable. For me, from an Indian background, you know, there is no need, and we can eat all our, traditional tasty foods without any meat. I totally agree. Are you working with groups like ProVeg? Yeah, absolutely. So ProVeg in the UK are doing quite a lot of work with schools that we're supporting there on the nutritional side and education. Hospitals, so we're trying to influence hospital policy, and I've finally been able to start that dialogue with our hospital, King's College Hospital, and as I say, getting involved in national campaigns has helped. ProVeg is not directly targeting hospitals at the moment in the UK, but I would love to be able to do that a bit more. I'm sorry, my mic's not working. Which is worse, red meat or chicken? Yeah, it's clear red meat is worse. Red and processed meat is quite clear. All studies are consistent. The health outcomes are much worse when you look at chicken, but it's all about how you can do the best with your diet. Yeah, you can, if you swap from red and processed meat to chicken, yeah, you'll probably improve your health outcomes a little bit because you've made a little change. But we know that the best health outcomes are associated with swapping out your processed and red meats to beans and nuts as your main source of protein. So I think that the science is clear. Yeah, I'm of a certain age. Are there any extra dietary requirements for menopausal vegans? Yeah, it's a really great question, and we have some information on our website specifically directed to the menopause. So do have a look. So yeah, I think the things that do come up with the menopause are, well, when you think about the sort of main killers for men and women, it's still heart disease, isn't it? So, you know, we still have to keep our heart healthy, which comes down to those healthy food components. Bone health becomes more of an issue and a problem as we as women, our estrogen levels fall in the menopause. And I know certainly in the UK, it's recommended that you know, all adults get at least 700 milligrams of calcium, but actually after the menopause, it's recommended that we get more like 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams of calcium. So really upping your sources of plant-based calcium is great. And for us in the UK, we have a lot of fortified milks and yogurts and options like that, which I think is great to incorporate. I don't think we should shy away from them. But, you know, calcium set tofu is great. And then, you know, greens and beans and chia seeds and all sorts of nuts are also good sources of calcium as well. So yeah, I would focusing on calcium, but otherwise it's just really emphasizing you know, healthy plant-based diet. The other thing for elders, and certainly you know, it's sort of menopause and beyond, you know, 65 plus, we possibly need a bit more protein because we digest it less well, we might absorb it less well, and we utilize it less well. So, you know, thinking about having a healthy source of protein at each meal is really useful. So again, it's all the beans, lentils, chickpeas, etc., and having a portion of nuts and seeds, and tofu is a really great source of plant-based protein. It has the same biological properties as you know, in terms of amino acids as animal foods. And I'm not saying that's the be all and end all, but you know, it is a good way of getting all the essential amino acids. And you know, a couple of portions a day. And we know that soya foods and milk can also reduce things like the perimenopausal and menopausal hot flashes and a lot of chronic illnesses as well. Very happy to share the presentation, so I will just forward it on to the organisers. So what sources of B12? Yeah, so I mean, we have three options in a plant-based diet. We have, well, no, sorry, we have two options. We have a fortified foods such as the plant milks and nutritional yeast and you know, other fortified foods and drinks, or a supplement. You know, for me, I think, you know, vitamin B12 is such an essential nutrient, and deficiency can be such cause such a problem that for me, I think it's just easier and more comforting to take it as a supplement. So you can do that on a daily basis or once a week. So 50 to 100 micrograms once a day or 2,000 micrograms weekly will be it. You know, set your reminder on your phone to take it once a week, whole family take it. I don't think that's a big deal, but some people do choose to have it as fortified foods, and then you have to take a couple of portions a day because we only absorb a small amount each time we eat. Is there any difference between dietary requirements between males and females? Why do you think men are less likely to adopt a vegan diet? I think overall there isn't a major difference between our needs. Obviously, there's certain stages of the female life, such as pregnancy and lactation, where women have additional needs, and also menstruating women have an additional requirement for iron, and actually the requirements for zinc is more for men because they excrete it in ejaculate. So there are some nuances, but you know, any well-planned diet will be able to incorporate all those aspects. And you know, when we think about nutrient deficiencies, the most common globally are iron and iodine, and they are prevalent in all diet patterns and not unique to vegan diet. So we all need to pay attention to all of these nutrients. I think the reason why men are less likely to adopt has been sort of documented in the medical literature. I think it's predominantly, well, it's partly to do with really effective marketing and advertising, and the way we think about food, and the cultural and social aspects of our food consumption. The kind of the myths that still are prevalent. That eating meat is macho, that you need meat to grow muscle, that having soya was going to give you man boobs, that it's going to impact your fertility, and these myths just keep being perpetuated by an industry that want to keep us reliant on meat, fish, eggs and dairy, sadly. So I think there's multiple factors involved in why men are less likely to, but it's not because of their health outcomes being less good on a plant-based diet. What special foods for arthritis? Well, it's all the really colourful fruits and vegetables that are full of anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds. The darker the food, the higher the antioxidant compounds and the inflammatory compounds are. So it's really sticking to what people call an anti-inflammatory diet, which is essentially a plant-based diet, and then upping your herbs and spices, and because they really have high levels. And then, certain people find benefits from having higher doses of things like curcumin and what have you. But I think most people would benefit from just keeping a healthy weight and upping the fiber and the healthy nutrients in plant-based diets. And we've just published a case report of our patient advocate who has come off all her medication for psoriatic arthritis on a healthy plant-based diet. She wasn't able to do that on just a usual kind of vegan diet, but when she really adopted the whole food plant-based diet that I've depicted, then that's really helped her to get off her medications, and she's now been off medications for 3 years, and she's just run her first half marathon. So it really is possible, and it's never too late, which is really the message of a plant-based diet as well. Cow's milk versus plant milk for children, ray calcium. Yeah, well, soya milk. So not all plant milks are appropriate for children. So beyond kind of 2 years of age, you should be looking at soya milk. And the fortified ones, and really the fortified ones have exactly the same amount of calcium as cow's milk. It's just as bioavailable, so it's absorbed just in the same amount. Soya milk has the same amount of protein as cow's milk, so really it's a great alternative. And then the pea milks that are coming on in the market are really good alternatives now to soya. If I don't know if you're one of the very rare people who are allergic to soya protein or something, so that's a great alternative. Adults are reluctant to change. Could you expand on this? Yeah, I think it just comes down to our social and cultural norms. And, we hear again and again that health visitors and health professionals, don't support their clients to raise plant-based and vegan babies. And it has to be done with support. Like with any diet, we're not doing any diet well for children. Children have got rising rates of overweight and obesity and type 2 diabetes globally, and yet when it comes to a healthy plant-based diet, we all are full of fear. But actually, children eating a plant-based diet, we know they eat more fiber, we know they eat less saturated fat, they have better cholesterol levels, and more likely to be a healthy weight. And if done properly, as we know from a couple of reports from Germany recently, the Vecchi studies, or Vici studies, maybe it's called actually Vici, that children are growing up absolutely fine, vegan and vegetarian. It's not an issue. It just comes down to dispelling these social and cultural norms, and stopping the meat and dairy industry from putting all that money into advertising. In the UK, they've looked at this, and less than 1% of the food advertising goes to fruits and vegetables, and most of the advertising airtime is given to meat, dairy, and unhealthy foods. Can you share with us links you find useful, research and studies? So I write a weekly blog, and it can be found on Medium under my name. So Shireen Kassam, so you can just sign up to Medium. I summarize all the latest data. It can then be found on my website, plantbasedhealthprofessionals.com, under the news section. And then we have loads of articles that refer to the data with hyperlinks. It's very difficult to just say one useful resource, but obviously with bias, I'd recommend my website. It's got it all there, fact sheets for patients and clients and parents and children, and then the science as well. What's your opinion on processed vegan food substitutes? I know, I don't know. I feel nervous. I really do, because for one, it's totally unnecessary. For two, it's being promoted by the same industry that's made us ill and in the first place. It's really feeding the financial goals of corporate food industry. It hasn't got health at the core, and we just don't need it. We really don't need it, you know. And I appreciate that some people will find them useful as transition foods, but the worst thing we can do as vegan advocates, as a population, is shift our diet from a processed omnivorous diet to a processed vegan diet. We know, we've got these studies, we know that our health outcomes won't improve. And in 10 years' time, we'll have the finger pointed at us saying, well, we told you a vegan diet isn't healthy. And yeah, a vegan diet can be super unhealthy, or it can be super healthy with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans. And I feel sad, and I feel sad to hear about all the cultured meat and things. It serves to propagate that myth that meat, dairy, eggs is necessary in the diet. If we think, oh, we need to find an alternative because we really have to have it, but that's not the message, is it? The message is that we don't need it, that we've only become reliant on these foods because of really amazingly effective advocacy from the meat and dairy industry. If you just think back to, you know, our diets around the World War II, it wasn't like this at all. We weren't eating the amounts of meat and dairy that we are now. So I feel sad, and although I see that some people enjoy having the options, I think it's becoming too prevalent within our vegan and plant-based advocacy movement. How much is the problem of sugar? Yeah, it's a real problem. I think there's more than one way to eat badly, and we have found lots of ways to eat badly. And having a diet too high in sugar increases inflammation, heart disease, may contribute to cancer risk, certainly promotes overconsumption of calories, and therefore overweight, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. It's an equally big problem. There isn't just one problem. We can't just blame it on the animal foods. There's a bigger problem with our food industry. But if we bring it back to the foods that are essential for health and that promote health, it's the healthy, minimally processed plant-based foods. And I think, you know, we don't have to be purists. I think it's fine. You know, you can eat processed foods for 10 to 20% of your diet and you'll probably be fine. We have to concentrate on the overall healthy diet pattern, not every individual component. And, you know, on one day you might have some cheat foods, that's fine, but it shouldn't be the bulk of your diet. You made an important point at the beginning that vegan diet is not automatically healthy. It is easy to buy processors and not cook. I know. And that's another thing, you know, the proliferation of supermarket foods has made it that we have lost the skills. We don't know how to make foods. You know, in the UK diet doesn't really incorporate much beans and lentils, and people just don't know what to do with them. Whereas, you know, I look at what my parents, you know, core comfort food, and it's all, you know, the lentils, the dals, the, you know, all the healthy plant foods. So, you know, the British have a real problem thinking about how they're even going to cook beans, but we have to remember that some of these foods are the cheapest foods that we could buy, you know, especially if you're buying, you know, dried whole grains and beans, you know, it's so cheap. But yeah, we need to you know, it's all very good me telling people what to eat. We need to give them the skills and knowledge to do so, and that starts from, you know, from all the way back to pre-pregnancy planning, pregnancy, eat healthy, teaching parents how to raise healthy children, teaching children about growing and cooking food. It's a big bit of work that requires systemic change, back to probably what we were doing 50, 70 years ago. What about soy products and thyroid? Yeah, so as long as you're eating a healthy diet and meeting all your nutrient requirements, and that includes enough iodine for thyroid health, and also less so, but still important, selenium and zinc, and there's no problem at all. The only thing that one needs to be aware of is that when you're eating, if you've got a low thyroid problem, so hypothyroidism, and you are on thyroid replacement, thyroxine, then you just need to leave at least an hour's gap between having your thyroid tablet and eating the soya foods. And, you know, thyroxine is taken on an empty stomach. So most people would take it, you know, before, when they first wake up, before breakfast, have at least an hour's gap, and then have their soya food. So if you're taking it in the morning, I think not many people eat soya. Well, I mean, you might be having your soya milks, but you could choose an alternative plant milk in the morning, and then you can eat your tofu and edamame and tempeh and stuff a bit later in the day. So that's the only thing. It doesn't actually affect any hormone health, and that's been shown over and over. Pregnant women, yeah, we have a fact sheet on that on our website, so plantbasedhealthprofessionals.com. So the things that you need to sort of make sure you're getting enough of in pregnancy is B12, of course, but that's relevant for all of us on a vegan diet. Iodine, omega-3 fatty acids, which we recommend having a supplement from algae sources. Iron obviously needs increase, meeting your calcium requirements. Yeah, so it's just a bit more of some of the basic nutrients that really, with a little bit of planning, is not a problem. All pregnancies need to be planned, regardless of what diet pattern. And yeah, I mean, I've shown you the position statement from the British Dietetic Association. Plant-based diet appropriate for all stages if appropriately planned, and that phrase you could use for any diet pattern. Indian kitchen, I would say, is one to look towards as it's high in vegetables. Yeah, agreed, you know, traditional Indian diets, but traditional African diets, you know, a lot of countries' traditional diet patterns are predominantly plant-based. It's just that, you know, the industrialization of our food system, the corporate takeover, you know, the refining of grains, that's just all meant that we've moved away from what our traditional diet patterns are. And one of the problems is that, you know, we've become reliant on such a small amount of foods. You know, 70% of the world's diet is composed of wheat, corn, rice, and potatoes. You know, 70% of calories, that's not diverse enough. You know, we need to be eating much more diverse diet. Yeah, so 21-day challenge, yeah, you just sign up for the daily emails. So once you've signed up to the website, link to the 21-day plant-based health challenge, you'll get daily emails to your inbox that will have information, recipes from all cultural backgrounds, videos, and then you'll start getting links to our weekly Zoom meetings with our nutritionist Layla Dagan, and then you can use that forevermore, to be honest. So it's just something to share with your friends and family, just to put all this information into a short, condensed version, really. Somebody's asking me about food combinations. I don't have to worry about food combinations. They come naturally anyway. As long as during the day you're eating a combination of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts and seeds, you really, really don't need to worry. But you will naturally combine foods that are healthy. You know, everyone talks about rice and beans. You know, they're healthy combination because they contain everything you need. You can have quinoa and tofu and things like that. So I really wouldn't worry, you know, in equal proportions throughout the day. And this food combination theory went out the window in the 80s, to be honest. It's another sort of myth that's perpetuated. Thyroxine, is there a vegan version? I'm not up to date on all that, actually. Sorry about that. I'm sure you can find out. Most of it's synthetic anyway. I mean, no medication, sadly, is vegan because all medications to date are really tested on animals. So I don't know if you can truly say that, but I wasn't personally aware that it contained any animal products because it's synthetic, but apologies if I'm incorrect there. Oh, okay, somebody says lactose. Oh, sorry, it's usually the case. Yeah, okay, sorry. I don't know off the top of my head, actually, but yeah, you can find out from our pharmacist on our team and send a message back to the organisers if that would help. I have a failed thyroid thanks to bonsai soy milk. Okay, I need to catch up on that. I don't know what happened there with that milk brand, actually. Apologies. I don't know, did you want to unmute yourself and let us know and tell us what happened with that?
Yeah, sorry, I can. It wasn't soy milk per se. It was just that they wanted to make it taste a bit more salty without actually adding salt. So they chose to add a powdered seaweed. And the seaweed they chose was kombu, which has got one of the highest levels of the of iodine of the seaweeds, and so it just had crazy high levels of iodine. And this went on for quite some time. And yeah, I'd already been diagnosed with a thyroid problem when I heard on the radio that it had been pulled off the shelves here in Australia, and then there was a massive class action against it. But yeah, haven't been able to find a thyroid preparation without lactose so far.
I'm really sorry to hear that. It's just, it ends up being such a cheap and useful ingredient, doesn't it, for drug manufacturers?
And I can't understand why it's in medication. Why is it even there?
Yeah, I guess it's the absorbability and the digestibility, but I mean, I don't know, because I mean, lactose malabsorption is so prevalent, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know an in-depth answer to that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Is wheat a bad choice? No, not at all. I think, you know, as long as you're concentrating on whole grain wheat foods, it's fine. I think the thing is, we eat wheat and certainly mainly as white flour products. So it's kind of, the whole food package is never great. And refining any grain really removes at least 70% of the nutrients, the B vitamins, the fiber, etc. So no, I have no problem with wheat. There's been this sort of myth again, sort of, well, here in the UK, there's been a popular book called Wheat Belly and then Grain Brain that really have sort of decided that wheat is the problem, but there's never going to be one food or one nutrient that is the result of all our problems. You know, it's about the healthiness of the diet pattern. And I think, you know, if you're looking to lose some weight, etc., you want to sort of, you know, concentrate on minimally processed, and you know, most wheat products are in the form of flour, and they end up being quite processed foods. So that's the only link I would make. But otherwise, I don't have a problem with foods made with wheat. Do you have any tips on introducing veganism to new people without attacking? Yeah, I think it's a skill we're all trying to learn, isn't it? And I can't pretend to be an expert here. I mean, I think it's understanding the person's context, where they're coming from, their backgrounds, you know, encouraging them to make small changes, leading by example, you know, giving them the education. I mean, nobody, you know, most of us didn't come from being vegan, and we've all had our own journey, and there's always been some sort of trigger that's made us go the full way, and we just need to meet that person, that patient, wherever they are on that journey. And it takes people a different amount of time. Some people do it overnight, other people need a bit more time to come to terms with that in their sort of social and cultural context. So I think we just need to be kind and compassionate and open, and, you know, accept that it's different for different people. But that's not a reason to give up. I think it's just being kind and leading by example, and being able to demonstrate the amazing benefits for people, animals, and the planet, really. Yeah, I agree. Melanie Joy's book's a great opening point for that, and full of, yeah, I agree. So Melanie Joy's book, Beyond Beliefs. An anti-inflammatory diet will seem to be simple, real food, not processed. Is there anything in whole grain foods we should be aware of? No, what about gluten? It's a bit of an anti-gluten theme. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with whole grains as long as you tolerate them. So, you know, there's a small proportion of the population, less than 1% really, that have celiac disease, where there's an autoimmune condition against gliadin and the main sort of wheat protein. And then some people are gluten insensitive, but this is really less than 10% of the overall population. So there isn't a particular problem with gluten. And actually, most of the studies that have looked at this show that those people that are actively avoiding gluten when they don't need to actually have a lower quality diet, especially if you're reaching for sort of more sort of supermarket foods. You know, they tend to be higher in fat, salt, and sugar, and also lower in fiber. So you could detrimentally affect the quality of your diet. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a healthy plant-based diet that's gluten-free. And again, our dietitian on our team actually has celiac disease, and she's written a really nice fact sheet about how to be gluten-free and healthy vegan. It takes a bit of work when you're excluding some of the healthy, commonly found grains, but yeah. So I don't think we need to be fundamentally anti gluten, but you can make a personalized decision. But if you do decide to exclude that for whatever reason, then make sure it's a healthy, you replace those gluten grains with healthy non-gluten grains. Kerala, cucumber and diabetes. I don't know. Does somebody want to speak to that? Because I'm not really sure. Is it Suzanne? Did you want to unmute and tell me more what you're talking about? Yeah, I don't know anything specifically about the link between Kerala, cucumber and diabetes, sorry. So we might be coming to the end of any questions. I don't know if anyone wants to unmute and share their experience, and I don't know, I'm sure all of you from all the different countries have got your own experiences of sort of advocating in this space and sort of trying to endorse a plant-based diet as a healthy option that will take care of a lot of our global crises. Because we're only going to do this working together, right? So I'm really keen to be connected up with any of you guys that are doing similar work. We have a list of people and organisations we're aligned with, but sharing resources and not sort of starting from scratch every time is a really useful thing to be able to do. I might just take, if anyone does want to chat, I might just pop some website links then. I don't know if anyone's done that already, but most of the stuff I've talked about is on my website, organisational website. So plantbasedhealthprofessionals.com. What else did we say? Can't remember.
You talked about your blog.
Yes, that's just on Medium. Let me just find the link for that. And on my website, if you look at the fact sheets, we've got some great ones that are really endorsed by our national organisations, like the BDA have endorsed a really great one for raising vegan children, and it sort of goes into the issues and pitfalls and all that sort of stuff, and how to do it properly. So that's my blog. Kerala or Bitter Gourd, I don't know. Sorry, Suzanne, I don't really have anything, that I know about that. It's obviously something I need to go and check out. If you've got any links or anything that would be useful for the group that points us into the right direction, then do put that there. We've got 10 minutes left. I don't know if anyone wants to chat about the kind of myths and barriers they face in their own daily roles or practice, or how you've been trying to promote plant-based diets in your own communities.
Can I just talk?
Yeah.
You encouraged me a lot. So I'm just connecting from Istanbul, Turkey. I've been in vegan 12 years now, and I never started with the veggie. It was not easy for me to understand. I would like to share my experience. I'm not involved with any diabetes, etc. diets, but I want to really learn, and it was amazing. Thank you, Shireen, for the presentation. The hardest part for Turkey is people keep asking, like, why you're vegan? But in the rest, we have really special vegan food because it's very Mediterranean, and it's not really hard for us, taking meat out and eating really very good food. So being 12 years vegan, and it turned lots of relatives is vegan in my family because they kept asking, and they just asked me why. And we have lots of diabetic people around, and so it just influenced each other a lot. I think is the feature in my country is really vegan because we have lots of people who see that they're really curious. They want to know where to start, how to start. And the good thing is we have lots of stores about the veggie and vegan based products, like local products. And also we have vegan festival. We have activism platforms, not too much doctors, but few doctors, they name themselves like vegan doctors, Turkish vegan doctors, and they really help us a lot. So this is what I wanted to just share with you all, maybe it's inspire you. It's being in Turkey is like really meat-based country, but it's really, you can see lots of people from the East and West, and they really try to be vegan, but not for diet, actually. Sometimes they're activists, actually, because animal rights, ethics part is also important for them. So thank you. It inspired me to just love your presentation and everyone.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure and really nice to be here with you in Turkey. I spoke at the Istanbul Veg Fest last weekend. So
Really?
yeah,
Oh,
and
yes, you were. No, I missed your conference.
and one of the organisers, Didam, is part of our group as well. So really happy to connect with you guys and support that message. And I think it doesn't matter where you're coming from, whether it's animals, health, planet. It's all the same. And as I say, our diet choices, we can choose to be kind and compassionate with our diet choice, and we just have to support people to do that in whichever way is possible.
It's sometimes hard when the people asking you lots of questions, and sometimes they're really not ignoring, but it's humiliating you. Like they're thinking that your choice is wrong, but it's actually very individual choice. And in 12 years, the first years, it was easy for me to respond to answers, but now I feel tired because there are lots of sources, and I'm really gently asking them to go and read and decide yourself, because it's a very cliche. Vegans should share their experience, but sometimes it's very tiring. I think is because knowledge and information, the old databases, is a quite open library in front of us, and this is sometimes a big challenge for me, even this century. So thanks. I missed your conference, but I was attending this.
Lovely. Yeah,
I'm going to watch it. Thank you. They all recorded.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we were just talking about our work in the UK, and somebody's just asked if they can join our organisation from outside the UK. And yeah, absolutely. As I say, we've got people from Turkey and US and Netherlands and all sorts. So it's becoming international, and it's just a way of networking with like-minded people. As I say, we form a community and try and just advocate as best we can. Really, it's not easy, but. Yeah, it's funny actually, somebody's posting some information from Australia. So I'm in touch with the Doctors for Nutrition group in Australia that do the same as what I do in the UK, and they've got their UN Food Summit dialogues on Wednesday that I'm speaking at, and I've just been looking at all the Australian stats, and oh my gosh, Australia is just like top of the list of G20 countries that are really contributing the most to greenhouse gas emissions. Their meat consumption is huge, and yeah, as you say, less than 50% really are eating the recommended fruit. But it's interesting when you look at how much fruit is currently recommended in the Australian guidelines. It's 2 portions a day. Like, what do people eat? Like, if I only ate 2 portions of fruit a day, like I would be dying, I'm sure of. So, it's even that they're not managing to do. And under vegetables is included legumes, whereas of course it should be a separate food group. So I'm really hoping the Australians' new version of their food guide will address these issues. You can't put vegetables and beans in the same food group and then say you need 3 portions a day. I mean, yeah, anyway.
Dr. Shireen.
Right, well, now I think we're probably getting to an end, aren't we, Rosa?
So sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to say a big thank you to you. At least for me, it was really inspiring to remember why I went vegan, and gave me some motivation to continue, of course. And I will share that, of course, with my friends who are not vegan yet. So I think, this is unfortunately the end, and I have to send everyone back to the plenary session. Please do not forget to click on the link to go back to our conference. Yes, and again, thank you so much, Dr. Shireen, and hope to see you soon somewhere else.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Really nice to be here today, and good luck with the rest of the conference.